'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, neither a sound nor a mouse. 'Twas many nights before Christmas. Or was it just a few nights before Christmas? It was told to me, go up to the 3rd floor of the rectory building and look out at one of the windows. And as you look out of one of the windows on this night, you will see the Christmas star. Oh, yes. I scurried up the steps to the 3rd floor, and I looked at the sky, and I looked at all the windows. I did not see the Christmas star. Now, that doesn't mean that the Christmas star did not appear a few nights ago. It meant that perhaps because of the clouds and from my vantage point on the 3rd floor of the rectory, I could not see it. Sisters and brothers, the Christmas story is a story told and seen and heard and retold and acted out and sung. This year, unfortunately, Handel's Messiah, for those who every year in their tradition would be listening live in the Big Apple to Handel's Messiah. Oh, sisters and brothers, it is very different. And the stories and the cards and the well wishes, they hold the story. But the story comes to us in a pandemic. The story comes to us at a time when the world is in somewhat, as someone said, a sadness. And that sadness for those who have suffered the direct effects of COVID, for those who have mourned the loss of a loved one, for our healthcare workers who are in the thick of it every day, and for all our public servants on the front line this past year, the story of this year is so very real. And as we all come to this Christmas story, and it's a story not only for Christians, it's a story for all people, as Deacon Tom proclaimed. This is not a story that we own. This is a story that humankind can embrace year after year and say, well, what is this story telling my life? Oh yes, we need to be wrapped in swaddling clothes as humankind. We need to be placed softly and gently in a manger as humankind. We need the visits of shepherds to come near, and eventually the wise to come near. All of humankind needs to be visiting again. Oh yes, those shepherds in that region living in the fields. If you know anything about shepherds at that time, they were not necessarily on the top of the do-gooder list. They were, sad to say, their intentions weren't always good. The reason they called Jesus the Good Shepherd was because most shepherds were not exactly too good. And so in this group that would be considered on the fringe, maybe we would say these are the drug dealers of the time. That the message comes to these people who are compromised morally, and they have fear. And shepherds don't ordinarily have fear in this time. In fact, they can't have fear because they have to protect the sheep from wolves. The last thing they can have is fear. But the story tells us there's fear. And at the same time, because of the good news, that fear is taken away. That's the wonder of the announcement. That's the wonder of the story. That's the wonder of a birth story. An announcement of someone whose life will take the fear away. Do not be afraid, for behold, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. All the people. This is a human story, but we live in a world of dehumanizing. We live in a world that sometimes forgets that every person has a story cloaked beneath their skin. We often forget that every person who breathes, no matter where they're breathing, they manifest the presence of God. And so it is a story for all people. And this little scene that we have in our church, this is to be a sign of what is so real in our times. Sisters and brothers, I didn't see the Christmas star the other night, but there are many things we don't see, but always continue to happen. We can't see everything. It was reported to me just the other day that our community here in Westfield by Deacon Keith and Deacon Tom, the generosity has been immense. Whether that be adopt a family, whether that be the gift card, whether that be food to St. Joseph's Social Services. So this generosity, immense. And therefore in that generosity, this story has legs. This story is not just caught here in a nice little setting. It is moving in the society and it generates generosity. That's what the story is to do, is to generate simple generosity. And that has been the case for so many have been touched by the generosity of community here in Westfield. Sisters and brothers, we come to this Christmas and there is call for greater empathy. And yes, there must be greater empathy. And greater empathy comes because we see a story that tweaks the feelings as though we're all in a labor and delivery room in a major hospital. Who can go into a labor and delivery room and look behind that screen? I can remember years ago around this time going into St. Barnabas Hospital, and the child was just born, and I was able to look in the window and see not only one child in a bassinet, but many children in that bassinet, moving the heart, moving the feeling, moving the empathy, engaging into the moment of birth and seeing new life. Sisters and brothers, empathy, generosity, and this combination of these human dynamics that goes beyond religious identification, in this combination of these dynamics of generosity and empathy, we gain resilience. The story of the birth of Jesus the Christ is a story of resilience. These people have the cards stacked against them. They begin to go beyond the borders. They're exiles, they're refugees, they're homeless. They are basically hunted by King Herod. These are survivors. This little family is a survivor family. It's a story of resilience. Sisters and brothers, as we celebrate with family and friends, abiding by all the protocols, surely aware of our times, may this Christmas be one that speaks in the solitude of the soul. May this Christmas be one where we begin to discover that we are the Christ today, and that through us, the story has meaning. Christmas blessings to one and all, wherever you may be, and may the story be yours, and may you be one with the story.